Okay. So, welcome everyone to the Challenge of Change. I am Sophfronia Scott, your host for this video conference. I am, if you don't already know me, I think most people do, but just for the recording, for the people who don't know, I am a former journalist. I wrote for Time and People magazines, and now I mainly focus on writing novels and my own essays, nonfiction. And I also teach. I teach in 2 creative writing programs, MFAs, Master in Fine Art. So I also do weekly videos called Your Morning Walk with Sophfronia, which can be found on YouTube. And what I do in those calls are, I basically talk about the writing life, some of the things I observe, other writers, issues that they're dealing with, things that I'm going through, and just trying to briefly address them and be helpful as we all move through this creative process. Today, I will give you a brief agenda for how this is going to go. So I'm going to offer you basically 3 tips on the challenge of change. And a couple of the writers on this call will also share some of their journey because they hit certain moments where they knew that their writing lives needed to change, and they can share how they did that. And then I will introduce the fabulous Simmonds, and we'll talk a little bit about the catalyst for change, which can be travel. And we will preview the 2nd edition of the very awesome Write of Your Life Writers Retreat that we will be doing in Italy this September. So if that all sounds great to you guys, I will begin. So, change. Okay, we're heading into the new year, and we've created resolutions. We know that we want things to be different. You might have set some goals for yourself, but you're not quite sure if it's going to stick. And we're midway through January now, and they say that most New Year's resolutions end or get dropped within 30 days. So we're actually nearing that point now. I started thinking about this because, and you may have seen it, there was this New Yorker cartoon that was going around a couple of weeks ago where this guy is sitting at his desk and he's telling his wife, well, I'm trying to, I don't understand why I can't get any writing done. I've been sitting here and I've looked at cat videos and I've gone into the kitchen for snacks and I've checked my social media and, well, nothing's gotten done. Nothing's being written. And unfortunately, that really is the way it goes for a lot of writers. And so I thought, well, how does one seriously change your writing life? So I started writing down this list of 10 essentials for changing your writing life. And you've seen that. I've been emailing them and also posting them in my social media stream. And they're going to continue to come. There are 10 of them, and they'll continue to post throughout the rest of the month. But today, I wanted to come back to the foundation. Those 10 essentials basically help support your change. And I wanted to go back to thinking about how you address the challenge of change. How do you come to do it, to this place of change in the first place? So 3 things I wanted to talk about concerning this. First, and this may sound obvious, but it's hard. First, you have to commit to the change. Now, what I mean by that is, we all say, oh, here are the resolutions. I want to do this, and I want to be 30 pounds lighter, and I want to write a novel, and I want to save, $5,000 and things like that. But I've learned that until you truly commit to it in a way, you've essentially come to this place deep down where you have this sense that things absolutely cannot go on the way they've been going on. That's when you commit to a change. Usually, you've heard people who've had addiction issues, they talk about hitting rock bottom. And rock bottom is usually where, they're almost forced into a change. For those not involved in addiction, usually, unfortunately, it takes a tragedy to make that shift. And that's actually what happened to me. My writing life changed about almost 9 years ago now, when my sister Theo died. Now, I was, doing this business. I was ghostwriting. I was doing writing, but I wasn't doing my writing. And well over 2 years, it must have been, I knew that I was in this situation. I knew I had to change. I knew it had to stop. And I kept thinking, okay, I'll do it. I'll do it. Maybe I'll go into a program. Maybe I'll do this. And I was like slowly, it was like turning around a ship. But my sister died, and she died unexpectedly. She was not even a year younger than I am. She was in fact my Irish twin, as they say, because we were the same age for a couple of weeks each year. And when she died, I came to this point of thinking, we are not guaranteed our time here. We are, I knew that I have a gift, and I am not using it. I'm not honoring it. This has to stop. Things not go on like this. And that's when I committed to a change. Now, I had no idea how I was going to do it even, but I knew that it would start right now. And for me, that meant making, and this is going to move into my second tip. The second tip to change is to do something radically different. Okay, so I was trying to do little things. Okay, I will try to spend a weekend on my writing. I will try to dedicate one day a week or something like that. And it wasn't working, and it wasn't working, and it wasn't working. I decided when my sister died, I essentially stopped my ghostwriting business. Did not take on any new clients, finished with the ones I had. I applied to MFA programs. And there was a point where I was so deep in my grief, I didn't even know if I could complete the application. So just a couple weeks after she died, it was my birthday. And I decided, okay, I would do one thing to move myself in this direction. And what I did was I ordered my transcripts, which I would need for the application. And then I sat down and worked my way through writing a short story, it was a chapter of the novel I was working on to submit with the application. Now, it's important to do something radically different, because how many times do you start off saying, okay, I know I want to do this, but then you start trying to do it, making the same small steps that you did before, right? And they didn't work. Like you thought, okay, well, I'm trying to save money. So again, I'll start putting aside $10 in my coffee pot or in my coffee can, every day. And eventually you either stop doing that or you spend that money and it doesn't work. But if you do something radically different, like you suddenly decide to have $100 a month taken straight from your paycheck without seeing it, right? That's a radical change. And it's more likely to work because it's something totally different and it's big, right? What can you do that's bigger than you've ever done before to really dive into making that change? It's hugely essential. Third thing, you have to support the change. What is going to help you keep going with the thing that you want to do? So for me, part of that process was applying for an MFA program. I knew I had to be in a totally different community. I moved from being in a community of entrepreneurs to being in a community of writers. So being in an MFA program, Masters of Fine Arts, was hugely important for me. Now, you'll find that when you support the change, it's like you're feeding it. You'll have people around you, or you're doing something that will just naturally cause momentum. once you commit to the change, you break out of inertia. And then you'll find that it's sort of like rolling downhill. Goethe famously said that when you move, Providence moves with you. And you'll find that you'll get all sorts of assistance that you never expected to have because you decided to boldly move into the direction of the thing that you wanted to do. Now, that support could be in the form of a group. It could be in the form of going into a very specific program, or it could be simply doing something different in terms of plugging into technology in a certain way. So even though I don't own a Peloton bike, I do have the Peloton app, and it's been amazing working. If you don't know, Peloton is a fitness program. And you see those expensive bikes, and you see people in those commercials. You've seen them all Christmas because they were really selling them at Christmas time. But there's also an app. You don't need to have the bike. I have a spin bike of my own, and on the app there are all sorts of classes. Yoga classes, strength classes, stretching classes, running classes, and you can take these classes either live or just the recording. And I found that even though I like to work out anyway, my workouts took out a totally different dimension when I was meeting these different instructors and being in community, but like in a chat stream, like I'm in a workout with 400 other people, and it was truly exciting. This week actually marks my 56th week. It's a streak. Like I've worked out at least once a week for 56 weeks. And I can tell you that because my Peloton app tells me so. So that supports my commitment to being a fit person. So if you want to change, make sure that you have what you need to do to keep it going. Now, I'm going to pause here for a moment and find out if I know that Colnice, I know Rachel is on the line. I'm looking for Colnice. Here needs a Peloton app to keep writing. Did I hear you, Colnice? Are you on?
Yes, I am. I'm on.
Okay. So Colnice, let me introduce you. So Colnice Hendon is a writer, and she lives in Minnesota. And I had the pleasure of teaching Colnice in a workshop that I taught in Minnesota. And she attended my first Write of Your Life Writers Retreat in Italy. And in conversing with Colnice, I found out that not only was that her first time in Europe, but that she was on a very particular writing journey. She was writing her memoir. And Colnice, I'm curious, what I wanted to ask you today, what was it that made you finally commit to your writing?
Okay, I'm listening to all the points that you made, and they all resonate with me. I started writing my memoir, I'm embarrassed to say, about 20 years ago. And when my mother is 100 years old, she just turned 100 years old in November. I started being her caretaker when my dad passed away 6 years ago. And that forced me to change my lifestyle because I had a very active lifestyle. But when I was at home in the evenings taking care of my mother, that gave me more time to write. But it wasn't until after she went to bed that I was able to sit down and actually write. And so in 2019, I should just share with everyone, I'm 62 years old. And I said to myself, if you're ever going to finish this book, you have to just commit to it and finish it. So what I did radically different was I joined a year-long memoir writing class at the Loft Literary Center in Minnesota. And then I supported the change. One of the ways was by attending the Writers Retreat in Italy. Going abroad was something I had always wanted to do, but the time was never right, or I didn't have friends that I could travel with who, it's like when we had the resources, it was not at the exact same time. So when Sophfronia invited all of her students to join her at the writing retreat, I'm like, I'm all in. So that was how I supported my writing change, was by going distant places to meet writers that I never would have met, you know, and hearing their stories and attending workshops along with them in Italy, in the most beautiful city I've ever seen. So that's my answer to your question, Sophfronia.
So tell me, what was it like? So how was it different for you in your writing once you did start being in community with other writers?
I became more intentional by me having an audience. Writing by myself, you know, was fine, but then when I was in the company of other writers who also became my audience, because we did writers exercises and we were able to read those exercises aloud and get immediate feedback, that forced me to dig deeper and you know, just be more intentional about my writing and be more thorough and more thoughtful in the words I selected. And we had a lesson while we were in Italy on the use of metaphor and simile that made me think, you know, more about different writers' techniques I could use to make my writing become more alive and things of that nature.
Yeah, and you're a powerful writer as it is, Colney. So all of adding all of, you know, what you're learning and being in community, I just can't imagine the new levels you've probably reached with your material.
Absolutely.
So, and can I share, well, why don't you share the milestone that you recently reached?
So I'm very excited to share that I completed my memoir, and I had my first public reading of it on this past Wednesday. I had a consultation with my instructor who read my manuscript, and she told me I'm ready to submit, and I submitted it. There's the Gray Wolf Press has an open contest right now. Every 2 years they accept writing through a contest, and I'm hoping and praying that I win, and if so, then I would be published. But I'm also actively seeking agents and looking into other opportunities, because from what I understand from published writers, it can be quite a journey just getting your writing published. So I'm on that leg of my journey now.
Yeah, and you're not alone, right? So you're
Right.
on this leg of your journey, but you have people who can answer questions for you, and you understand what it is that you're moving through. So that's the wonderful thing of everything that you've done will continue to support your ongoing work.
Yes, I'm very grateful for all of the help I've had along the way, and I just also want to thank you, Sophfronia, because when we were in Italy and we somehow became separated from the group, and I had an opportunity to talk to you privately about my manuscript, and you were right there to answer my questions, and that was very helpful as well. So I appreciate that.
Oh, thank you, Colney. Yeah, we were, that was in Padova. We were walking. Everyone else took the bus, and we decided to walk. So we had a lovely walk through Padova, and that was like one of my favorite parts of the trip.
Yeah.
And it was also exciting, Colney, because knowing that you had never been abroad before, I was excited just to hang out with you and to see. I'd never been to Italy either, but I was excited just to see the country through your eyes.
And it was absolutely amazing. I'm still in awe when I think back, and I took lots and lots of pictures. So when I look back over my pictures and have the memories of being with all of the other writers, and half the day, I should explain to those who are listening, half the day we devoted to the craft of writing, and the other half of the day we devoted to sightseeing and visiting various locations around the city of Venice. And it was absolutely wonderful, and it was also inspiring. We would do workshops on some of what we saw, and so it all went hand in hand with the journey that we were on as writers.
So actually, since you're talking about this, Colney, let me bring in Janet Simmonds so that Janet can comment also on this. And I want to introduce you guys formally to Janet, because she is the wonderful person who leads our fabulous excursions and puts all of it together, because I can only teach writing. I can't do everything else. And Janet is the one who knows that part of the world and is steeped in it. Janet Simmonds is a British-born tour guide, writer, and travel company owner. Born in Liverpool with a slightly Greek grandfather and a very Greek great-grandfather, she has a special affinity with the history, culture, and art of the Mediterranean, especially Italy and Greece. She studied geography and art history at the universities of Oxford and Manchester. Janet has spent most of her adult life running specialist travel companies and traveling extensively. Several times a year, she leads small groups to different parts of Europe, most recently to Venice and the Veneto, Sicily, Naples, and Basilicata. She writes about travels and observations on her blog, www.educatedtraveler.com. Her specialist travel company, Grand Tourist, offers unique, tailor-made travel for individuals, companies, and small groups. The website is www.grandtourist.com, and she is also my partner in crime for the Write of Your Life Writers Retreat. So thank you for being on the call, Janet.
Oh, thank you, and thank you for a great introduction. I just love travel. I love the history and culture and art and literature of Europe, and it's my absolute pleasure to share it with visitors. And Sophfronia and I actually met in Chicago about 5 years ago. Is that right, Sophfronia? About 5 years ago?
Yeah, I believe so.
And Sophfronia was talking to me about her desire to do a writer's retreat in Italy, and I said, well, I could help you with that, Sophfronia. And also because I've been working in Italy for so many years, I know a lot of hotel owners and a lot of Italian people. I speak Italian. And so I knew a very suitable family-run hotel that would be ideal to accommodate us on a writer's retreat. And we ended up in this marvelous country house hotel. And we had a week of creativity and fun and fantastic food and wine. And in fact, Mary Lou Peters, who was on this call, she wasn't with us on the writer's retreat, but she's traveled with me quite a few times in Europe, haven't you, Mary Lou?
Oh, yes.
And she'll almost certainly, if I give her $50, say something nice about me.
No money necessary. I'm your biggest fan.
Yeah, so I've been making a career out of traveling with clients, British, American, Australians, French, Canadians, all different nationalities. And it's just my great pleasure to bring the history and culture of Europe, especially Italy, alive to people. And I'm so excited to be working with Sophfronia, and we're planning our second writers retreat now, which will again be in Italy this September. And if it was anything like the one that we led last year, which Colnese attended, it was amazing. The synergy that was created was quite humbling, actually, is the word that I would use. It was quite extraordinary, the dynamism that we created with the participants.
Well, Janet, can you talk a little bit about why travel would be important for writers? Like, why go on a big retreat like this?
I think probably.
Wait, while you do that, I'm gonna see if I can share my screen and show the brochure. Okay.
Okay. Cool. Okay. Well, I think the important thing about travel is you are literally and physically changing your horizon. So the minute you close your front door behind you, you are exposing yourself. You're making yourself available to a new journey. And you have no idea what that journey is going to entail. And actually, in a funny sort of way, you're in control of that journey by the way that you react to the things that you see and the things that you discover. And Venice is my absolute passion, and you can see this marvelous picture on the screen. This is the what's called the Bacino San Marco, and the Church of San Giorgio Maggiore is in the background. And it's very hard not to be inspired when you're in an environment like this with the blue-green water of the lagoon, and usually the sun is shining, you're eating delicious food, you're having lovely wine, and of course you've got none of the domestic constraints that you have at home. So you don't have to do the laundry, you don't have to take phone calls if you don't want to. So I do think that travel liberates you in a very profound way and enables you to be open to new ideas that perhaps you wouldn't be open to at home. I absolutely love this group photograph of us in September of last year, and we can see Colney's in the centre there. We can see Andrew, we can see Rachel, I can see everybody, it's great actually. We had a lovely time, and again, you can see from the backdrop, you know, there's no filter in that photograph, no filter was required. You know, this is what it looks like in September in Italy. And you could almost say it would be impossible not to be inspired in that environment, even though there's far too much negative language in that sentence for my liking. Oh, I know what's coming up. This is great. Here's a lovely introduction to Sophfronia, our host. And then on the right-hand side, we've got this gorgeous picture of all of us hard at work in one of the workshops, because the hotel that we stay in has got these lovely public areas, which it's really like being in a private home. And the hotel are very kind, and effectively, we sort of dominate the hotel. It's only got 18 rooms. And I think last September, I think we had 13 or 14 of them. So effectively the hotel was our private domain. And each day we sat in this beautiful sitting room full of natural daylight, and Sophfronia would introduce the topic of the day, and then we would all work on whatever assignment our teacher had given us. And the results were just incredible. It was wonderful.
And here's Janet. And I love this shot of the hotel, the shots of the hotel.
Oh yes, the hotel is set in its own beautiful grassy sort of verdant setting, and you can have your breakfast outdoors on the terrace each morning, which is just wonderful. And for me, having, you know, a coffee and a slice of cake and an orange juice, you know, at that gorgeous table with a lovely linen tablecloth is absolutely one of life's golden moments, without a shadow of a doubt.
Yeah.
And this is a great photo of the Doge's palace, actually. And Andrew, my husband, bottom center. And then on the left-hand side, this gentleman was our honorary New Zealander on last year's trip, Adrian Trenholm.
Oh, Adrian, in the hat?
Yes.
I didn't know that. Oh.
Absolutely, absolutely delightful man. And he'd been very inspired by Persig and the art of motorcycle maintenance, because as a profession, his profession is medical. He's a doctor, a pediatrician, I think, actually. And he loves to write as a sort of hobby. And he also loves to race old motorcycles. So he was a charming and interesting fellow. Yep. And oh yes, this is probably one of my favorite trips that we do out on the lagoon. Again, Mary Lou Peters, you will recognize this. This is the island of Torcello, which was one of the first places in the lagoon, along with the Rialto, to be inhabited, probably in about the 4th century after Christ. And there's this amazing church there, which has got an incredible mosaic, a 12th century mosaic on the back wall, which is a Last Judgment. And you know, it's what happens if you're not good on this planet. And you know, it looks pretty grim. Their version of hell is pretty grim. And then here we have the island of Burano, which is the fisherman's island that we also visit. And the lovely smiling lady on the right is my friend Roberta Carraro, and she is a Venetian mask maker. And she came and did a little mask making workshop with us, which was just absolutely delightful.
I call it creativity play date.
Yeah, a creativity play date. And she will definitely be joining us again in September to show us her new skills. And in fact, I just ordered one of her masks, actually, because in 2 weeks' time, it's going to be Carnival in Venice. And I have decided that I'm going to hang out in St. Mark's Square. Hope I don't get arrested. But I'm going to behave myself. And I'm not going to wear a crazy costume, but I am going to wear a bit of a costume because I want to be able to photograph revelers, and so I need to look discreet. So I've got my mask ready.
And I found the colors of Burano absolutely fascinating, and I still think about it. You know, that's one of those things that I know will somehow come out in my writing. Maybe not even for months, but somehow there's something that's imprinted in me when I see those colors, and again the sky. There is some sort of spark of inspiration there for me. I feel joyful when I see Burano.
I think the people of Burano have done a really good job at maintaining and promoting their island. You know, they're out in the middle of the lagoon, they're half-an-hour boat ride from Venice. You know, that's quite remote. And they get visitors during the day, but the actual population is small. I think probably not even 2,000 people. And I love the pride that they take in painting the houses the different colors. And this habit has intensified over the years. It's brighter and more vibrant now than it was 15 years ago.
So it's some fabulous seafood there too, right?
We did. We went to Da Romano, which is one of our favorite restaurants, and had an amazing seafood risotto, which was delicious. And I'll post a picture of the inside of that restaurant later, actually, because that'll be great. And as soon as I've had the print version of the brochures done, I'm going to go and find this waiter and show him and say, "You're famous, mate." I don't actually know who he is, but I'll find out.
He's probably worked there for years, I bet.
Oh, almost certainly. They all have.
Okay.
And also, the photo that's coming up of you, Sophfronia, I absolutely love. This is just a gorgeous, gorgeous photo of Sophfronia, in my opinion, taken by a lovely friend of ours, Rob Berkeley, who sadly isn't with us anymore. But this photo just captures your spirit, in my opinion.
Thank you. You know, I told someone, I think it was on Twitter, there's a discussion of people who use the same headshots even though they don't look like that anymore. And I said, you know, I'm going to be one of those people, because I just love the fact that wherever this picture shows up, it says credit Rob Berkeley.
Yeah, it's adorable.
A magazine coming out soon, and it's like, to me, that's always going to be my memorial to Rob, that his name is up. And so,
yeah. It's a lovely photo, lovely.
Thank you. So, so as Colnice mentioned, the way the days work is that we start off doing workshops in the morning, and it's just like from 9 to 11:30, something like that. And we talk, we do exercises, all in that beautiful room. And I have to say, I love that we are not in one of those hotel conference rooms, you know, the ones that usually have no windows or fluorescent light. It drives me nuts.
Yeah.
So I enjoy being in that room every morning. And so, you know, this is a list of workshops, but it can be changed depending on who we have and the skill levels in the room and what genres are being represented. So it's really open, and it changes, and it's alive. You know, as Janet mentioned, we create a synergy while we're in the workshops throughout the week, especially after we have the excursions, because there's inspiration that comes of the excursion. And I like to honor that, to see what writing is coming of what we've done the day before.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, I'm just having a look at the photos here. I mean, yeah, we've got all the wonderful historic villas as well within sort of an hour of where we're staying. So in terms of artwork, there are so many opportunities to go and visit beautiful frescoed villas, to go and visit Venice, of course, which is just down the road. You know, well, as you know, I find the region completely inspirational.
Yes. So I just wanted to add quickly, because we have Rachel Fox on as well, and Rachel is in Mallorca, Spain, and Rachel joined us too last year. So, Rachel, what are you thinking as you see these pictures scroll through?
As I'm looking through the pictures, well, just very, very, very happy memories, and also the great feeling of really getting me going with my writing again. I have committed to my change, but it's difficult. I agree. Things always happen to sort of get in the way of writing, don't they?
Yes, they do.
But I have a kind of, well, first of all, a confidence, I think, now that I can do this. I've just got to make it happen. So every time something happens where I'm sort of, for example, my colleague was ill, so I couldn't really have the time off like I wanted the last month. So I'm sort of trying to attempt it different ways. I bought a new computer, which was one of the things that I can make sure I don't lose anything. But yeah, I'm now finding that I'm concentrating on things like, I don't read enough, so I thought, right, how can I solve that one? I listen to Audible books a lot while I'm working, fantastic. And I use my reading much more in terms of, I think Colnay mentioned something about this, about how you can look at other writers and see, this is how they tackle that problem, I can use that. I've just read Olive Kitteridge.
That's
I mean, that's a great sort of great source of inspiration as a sort of the kind of style I'd love to be able to write in, but just the way she approaches things. So I think it's just made me a lot more focused, and yeah, I'm desperate to come back. I don't know whether I can yet, but I'm desperate to come back to see all you guys as well. But it is just a fantastic location. Everything worked really well. Yeah.
So just to let you guys know, the brochure that's been scrolling through, I put the link to this brochure in the chat stream so you can download it and look at it at your own leisure. So, and as Janet mentioned, she's actually printing it up in these beautiful, gorgeous copies. If you actually want a hard copy, just email me and let me know, and we will get one in the mail to you.
Yes, I can do that.
So I wanted to, let me move my screen. So I wanted to open it up for people to ask questions, because I know that that people want to ask me questions, which is fine. So who would like to, I'm trying to figure out how to stop sharing the screen here so that we can see. But you can shout out a question and go from there.
Sophfronia, someone has music on in the background and it's getting hard to hear.
But they muted it.
Okay.
I
don't hear it. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. Any questions about writing, about what we talked about the trip?
I live in a real remote area with no writing support at all. Mm-hmm. There have been several false starts, and I wonder if there's anything online like that.
Like
a writing group.
There are many writing groups online, and in fact, I mean, Karen is online. I mentioned that Karen is was one of my students. Actually, the MFA program that Karen took is all online. So Karen and I actually didn't meet in person until I attended the graduation activities. So there are groups, there are workshops that you can take that are solely online. There are writing groups on Facebook. So yes, you can. You live in Michigan, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm not sure how far up in Michigan.
Way up.
Very far.
Because I was thinking, I'm actually going to be in Michigan in April. So Grand Rapids is, I guess, far south of you.
Yeah, that's 4 hours from where I live.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, we have technology just like this, right? Yeah. So it is possible to connect with people and share writing.
I was going to say about the
I just
chicken soup
wanna-
for the soul thing, because that got me going. Because you mentioned that before, and I just thought, yeah, I'll do it and do it. And then my mum was over at Christmas, and I just thought, oh my God, I haven't done it. I haven't done anything. And I looked, and it was still, I think the deadline was put forward a month, but I thought I've got to do it now. So I sort of sat down and wrote that and sent it off. And I think that was a great site. I need to go back and look some more, but just that sort of making yourself put something out there. I think it's 1,200 words, which is pretty good. You know,
Rachel, would you tell me what that is again, please?
I think the website is called Chicken Soup for the Soul. It's a sort of online publication, isn't it? Sophfronia.
It's not online.
Is it not?
These are books. These are real live books.
Oh well, yeah.
But Mary Lou, what she's referring to is that we have a participant group for people who have who went to Italy with us, and I send out suggestions or when calls for publications come out. And I've been published in Chicken Soup for the Soul book, so I get the emails that when they were looking for submissions for their new books. And so what Rachel is referring to is that I sent them a recent call out for stories, and that they are always looking for stories. Like they print tons and tons of books each year. And like for instance, I just got one night before last where they want one having to do with dreams, and also the magic of dogs and things like that. And it's really wonderful because not only do you get 10 copies of the published book when it comes out, they pay you like $250. So it's a really cool thing for 1,200 words. So, and it's a great place to get published for the first time if you've never been published. So I've been encouraging the participants like Rachel to submit stories to that series.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Could I interject here? I wanted just to add that the Lost Literary Center in Minneapolis, Minnesota, if you Google them, they have classes, online classes that you can participate in, and that's a way that you could support your writing as well.
That's a great idea, Colnice. Oh, and by the way, Colnice, I will be in Minnesota also this spring. I have to update my event page on my website, but I
saw that, and I'm already trying to endeavor to attend that. That's the spiritual workshop.
Yes.
For spiritual writers.
Yep.
Okay, I hope to be able to see you there.
Yeah, thank you. That'll be great. Any other questions, comments?
Sophfronia, what event will you be at in Grand Rapids?
That is the Festival of Faith in Writing. And I'm not teaching for that one. I'm just there for a book signing. But there will be all sorts of fabulous speakers, and they have a book fair there, and it's an awesome event, and it only happens every other year. It's at Calvin College.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Anything else? Any other questions? And Janet, thank you for answering that question to Elizabeth about blogs.
Oh, yeah. Well, I think blogging is, I have loved writing my blog over the last couple of years. It's amazing how quickly you learn. You know, if I look at articles I wrote 4 years ago, and then I look at the material that I'm writing now, you know, you can see a definite development, a definite change. You know, I think the reason I like writing in a blog format is because it's quite short. If I choose to, I can write sort of less than 500 words, and it's quite a good discipline. I quite like it. So sometimes I'll do longer pieces, which might be a couple of thousand, but then sometimes I'll deliberately say, right, this is going to be super short, to the point, and I'm going to see if I can get people's attention. And sometimes I'm more successful than others. And, you know, you write something that you're really, really proud of about Byzantine mosaics in Ravenna, and, 3 people read it. And then you write something about chocolate and 400 people read it.
And Elizabeth, the word blog is short for weblog. And when they started, they were almost like journaling pieces. Like people would have a personal blog, and the articles they posted were almost like journal pieces, commenting on things happening in their lives. But they took on a greater meaning, and now, you know, companies have blogs, magazines have blogs, and a blog has become, you can post essays, articles. For some writers, it's a way of putting out samples of their own writing. I am a featured writer on Ruminate Magazine's blog. So I publish essays there about like every 6 months or so. So anyone can have a blog, but it's a great place if you're new to writing. It's a great place to start practicing putting your work out there. And Janet, when I met you, you were just beginning to write, and you had just started your blog.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah, I like it, and I find it's quite funny, actually. I don't know, for some reason I think Rachel might relate to this. When if I haven't written an article for about a week or 10 days, I get a bit sort of itchy and a bit sort of restless. And then if I say to myself, right, you know, on whenever, Tuesday afternoon or whenever it is, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to write an article, by which point I've sort of decided what the subject is and so on. Once I've actually done it and I've checked it and fact checked it and all the rest of it, when I actually get around to publishing it, I feel, you know, posting it on the blog, I feel very virtuous. It makes me feel good. And I feel sort of calm, and I feel like I've done what I should have done. And that stays with me for probably about 10 days until I have to do it again.
But then you have to do it again. Isn't that the thing with writing? You always have to start again.
Yeah, yeah. And I often think of you, Rachel, when you were talking about, you know, being in the laundry and thinking about, you know, storylines and characters and development, you know, whilst, you know, filling and emptying washing machines. And I was thinking, yes, that's my way of doing stuff. I'm just like that.
Yeah, but it becomes a bit obsessive though. And now I think I'm just about to go on another little trip with Anna. But I've got to arrive.
Where are you going? You must tell me.
Well, we're going to the mainland Spain, but I have to arrive a day before. So I'm going to arrive in Malaga.
Yeah.
And I thought, right, okay, I'm not going to be sad and lonely on my own. So I booked myself into a little walking tour.
Lovely.
With wine and tapas. And I thought, I'm going to gather stories, you know, because otherwise I don't think I would have done this before Italy, actually. I just thought, because I could arrive somewhere new and I could get a bus or something, and I'd sort of wander around and I'd just go to my hotel room and just stay in and then wait for everyone else to arrive. But I think I just thought, oh no, I can meet people, I can talk to them, I can eat, I can do it all in one, and I'm bound to find some sort of juicy story, aren't I? I'm bound to.
Yes, and it's all just about asking the questions, you know.
Yeah.
And it can be such a simple question that you ask to get somebody started, like, you know, what brings you here, or how are you feeling today, and you know,
yeah,
out it all comes.
Yeah, so I'm going to take my moleskin, Sophfronia.
So what Rachel is referring to is her moleskin journal notebook. So I brought little, if you don't know moleskin, spelled M as in Mary, OLESKINE. It's a company that produces these wonderful notebooks of all sizes, but one in particular, this handy dandy little size that you can fit in a pocket. I brought them for all of the participants because this is the type of notebook. Oh, you have it! Yes, there it is.
I have it here. So I have to confess, I haven't used it yet, but I love it.
But you have tons of notebooks of various types. So do I. But it's specifically the type of notebook that Ernest Hemingway, Pablo Picasso, Vincent van Gogh used. And so I specifically, I didn't want to give my participants just any notebook. I wanted them to have the notebook that used by great travelers and great writers and great artists. So that would be a piece of inspiration as well. And
Sophfronia,
yes.
In the art world, we call those moleskina.
Oh, is it?
Yes.
Moleskine.
I don't think I've ever heard
like
it
that.
pronounced out loud.
Sounds Italian.
Didn't it start out as a European company, I think? I think
so.
I do not know.
I think it's owned by someone in America now, but yes, that's the way it started out.
It sounds better than moleskine.
I know, right? Because when I first learned about them, I thought, why would you call a notebook there, moleskin.
Yeah,
So thank you for clarifying that for me.
sure.
It sounds like the naughty corner in Spanish. Mala esquina.
Oh, yes.
So, and the other thing that we did with those journals, and I have a wonderful photo of Colnice writing in hers, is that we spent we had a day of noticing. You guys remember that? Where we spent a day on the lagoon in our own private boat, and the participants, everyone had to just notice, like open your writer eyes and write down what you see, what inspires you. You know, like for me, it was the colors of Burano, but to think specifically, just look, take in what we're going to do today. And everyone wrote about it, and we shared it in the workshop the next morning. So that was fun. So do you remember that, Colnice? Like, I remember you were writing.
I do, and as a matter of fact, this morning I read over what I wrote, and I was amazed. We saw a lot of churches, and I remember I wrote about something related spiritually. So I still have my book. I'm using it.
Yeah, excellent. So do we have any other questions before we wrap up? We're nearing the top of the hour. No? So Janet, if someone is interested in going on the trip with us, what would be next steps?
Probably the best thing to do is have a look at the brochure online, which I believe you've shared. I haven't seen that link. Should it have come up in the chat?
Yeah, it's in the chat.
Oh, is it?
Yes.
Okay. So the first thing to do would be have a look at the brochure. And then the next thing to do would be to actually reach out to me or Sophfronia. Either by email or by phone, whatever suits people. My email is janet@grand-tourist.com. But actually, I can see the link now that Sophfronia has put up, and everything that you need to know is on there, basically. And any problems whatsoever, or any questions or requests for additional information, just contact me or contact Sophfronia. We would be delighted to talk to you.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone, for being here today. This has been so much fun. And ideally, this is what community is all about, getting together and talking and generating that kind of synergy that leads to inspiration, that leads to your writing. So I'm going to be doing Q&As like this more often, hopefully once a month. So I will schedule another one for February. And so I will be back, and I hope to see you all again soon. But this has been the Challenge of Change with Sophfronia Scott. My guests is Janet Simmonds and Rachel Fox and Colnice Hendon. And thank you all for being here, and I hope you have a great weekend. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye. Nice to see you. Bye. Bye.
Thank you for doing this.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome.